Hello and welcome everyone to a new episode. Last time we ended it with the theme of authenticity. So we're gonna take it from there today. And how it often is with topics like that, for me, when I first want to speak about something, it's actually deconstructing everything that I know. And it's more a question of what is authenticity for me and what does it actually mean for myself. And I see this as well, like because this is why we started all of this podcast is because we learn a lot through speaking our truth, but also through hearing what the other person has to say. So I actually want to start with that. What if we start with a clean slate? And what does authenticity actually mean? And then roll from there and see what different topics are tying in. And definitely, I think authenticity, first and foremost, is a very personal topic. It can mean something completely different than it can mean for you or also for anyone else that is listening. And I think the key in that is to figure out what is your truth. As is anyway, in both of our works, that's also one of the key pillars that we're working on. But it's like, what does it mean for me to be authentically me? And I think a few examples that are just coming up, and that's also very simple right now, how I'm sitting here, is clothes make me feel authentically me. I'm a person that actually chooses colors that resonate with an emotion I'm feeling in that moment, or how I want to present myself to the world, or how my inner being wants to present. Let's say that it's actually that my inner being wants to present myself to the world. I woke up this morning and I felt silver. So I'm like in abundance of silver. And I wear like the green velvet pants because I feel soft in them. And wearing them makes me feel soft. Whereas the silver gives me this beautiful, beautiful feminine quality of like calmness and deep water, and it still makes me feel luxurious. So it's this like clothes and jewelry makes me feel authentically me. That's like one example. I think I'll pass it on to you for now because you see, my start today is very slow, and I think it's gonna go like that.
No, I love it. No, I think it's beautiful where you started. I definitely think that, the way that we portray ourselves to the external world is it is authentic, right? Or it is what helps us to present ourselves authentically. I do love that you said, it's about finding truth. And I think that the first thing that we need to understand, or at least from my perspective, coming from transcendentalism before dropping into the body, is that there are two truths, right? We have the truth of the all, which we find in this transcendentalism, the unity consciousness, but then we have the individual truth, which is what we find when we are embodying. Authenticity to me also, it's not something that we have or that we lack. Authenticity for me is a practice. It's a conscious choice, which for me, choice is action. It's not decision making. You know what I mean? It's not limited to the mind. So, it's a conscious choice of how we desire to experience life. In fact, it's a collection of conscious choices that we have to make absolutely every day. These choices are helping us to release ourselves from limiting beliefs, from our programming, from our conditioning, whether that is societal or social or generational or religious or spiritual conditioning, these all have polarity teachings or duality teachings at their core, and so they kind of need to be neutralized and redefined. So it's about releasing ourselves. It's about allowing our souls to guide the way. It's about choosing to show up and to be real. It's about choosing to be honest with yourself first and foremost. It's to choose to let the true self be seen and also to embody what the divine wants to express and experience through us. This just goes back to that the I am essence, us itself. It just knew I am, and one day it said, "What can I be?" So it fragmented to see how it could experience itself better through us, who we've all been designed uniquely, right? So this brings me to the work that, as you know, that I do. Um, but again, coming from a primarily transcendental awakening, which I also have a lot to say about, but perhaps it's a better topic for another video. I studied, and I channeled a lot about unity consciousness. Um, how it is that we can be one and unique at the same time, right? So, as you know, with the blueprint work, I explain how each and every individual manifestation of self actually inherits the divine creative energies from source, along with unique gifts and talents that come from the unique combination of these energies within the soul coding. It's like when parents have more than one child, and it's common knowledge, or at least I think it is. Firstborns from a mother will usually have more of the father's DNA, and progressively, as she continues to give birth to more children, the mother's DNA will come through, right? So it's like this. Yeah, it's about this having the different compositions, although of the same DNA, but to different extents, right? So anyway, tangent. Authenticity for me is basically, yeah, aligning yourself to this individual truth of your unique soul code, because it's who you really are at soul level, right? Before any negative blocks and restrictions actually can get into the way of your unique self-expression. I mean, then you've got this whole groups of orientation, etc. But authenticity is, for me, it's living your life, um, expressing the truths of the characteristics of your unique soul coding rather than blindly going against yourself because your whole existence is clouded by ego. I mean, I think it's probably a very technical and straightforward definition of authenticity in terms of a big part of what I do, to help others understand themselves at the core. But I think basically it's finding out, like you said, that truth and just expressing that truth. I think there are so many aspects of ourselves to find truth in. It's not just about the soul coding, it's about, the different archetypes that we embody, also about our sensuality, about feeling comfortable in your body. Yeah, I don't know if that got fully recorded. There might have been a glitch there, but yeah, I think it's really about that embodiment. It's about finding out, like you said, the truths of yourself, of the many aspects of yourself, and really expressing that fully.
Yeah, so gorgeous. And I think while you were speaking, for me, what came up was the truth that I learned was, first of all, what authenticity means for me today could be something different tomorrow. So also when I evolve, this will change for myself. So it's always important, as is everything in life, that we don't just get stuck and think we have achieved it. I'm living my authenticity. No, most likely you're living it right now, but what about tomorrow, the day after, and after? And what I also what came up for me was like, what is standing in the way of us living our authentic truth? And very often it's actually trauma, right? So when you spoke, what I realized for myself was that my authentic being is actually a very soft and gentle, um, flowing being. And would just like to walk around nature in like a Disney kind of like nature world, with singing with the birds and the bees and touching the fairies and like this kind of life. So I wasn't born in a world like that. And therefore, from a very early age, and I'm sharing my story because I think it actually resonates with a lot of you out there, from a very early age, I needed to learn that I'm not safe being this way. I needed to put on a hard shell to kind of survive my childhood in the village I grew up in, that was very much detached from the connection with nature, even though it's actually a village completely surrounded by nature. But how it so often is in a bit more conservative places, this detachment is very big. So therefore, I thought that this hard shell was my authentic self, but it wasn't. So I had to go through it and work through it. So through drama, I put on a part of me that I thought was me, and then I had to remove it to actually uncover what is underneath it. And I feel like I'm still uncovering that. So we have trauma that is standing in the way. We have most likely ourself that is standing in the way with all of our limiting beliefs and insecurities and what if I do, because what I can tell you, if we truly start listening to our inner voices, connected to everything that Desi so beautifully has shared, most people of us would be way different than what we're living right now. And I told you before that for me, society has a big impact on that, because for society and for our governments, it's actually easier if we are all living similar. If we're buying the same products, we're dressing the same way, because then we can do research on our behavior and we can put out the right clothes. And that's how fashion industry works, for example, right? All the products in the supermarkets are working that way. So if a lot of people start becoming more authentic, we would realize, like you and me, I wouldn't say I wear any kind of fashion style. I wear my own fashion style, and I actually think I'm very fashionable, as are you, but we're not following any trends. I don't even know what the trend is right now. So if imagine if like thousands upon thousands or millions of people start doing that, and the fashion industry couldn't follow the order that they have created anymore, that will create kind of a disruption, right? Because society is feeding on us following these patterns, wanting new things. Look, because it's also with capitalism behind it. I feel like I'm losing myself because it's like my thoughts are going so fast because it sees the ties of everything being tied together. So authenticity is actually not what society and our governments want. They want what is the opposite of authentic? What is the opposite of authenticity?
One sheep, my love.
It is cheap, but I was wanting to say a nicer word to that, but I couldn't remember. But it's uniformity, no?
Want everything uniform. They want everything the same.
Yes, yes. It's a very like, but the image that comes for me is like a little bit in a military. Anyway, so that is why it's such a fight. It feels like such a fight, and like having to fucking climb up a mountain to be your authentic self, because you're going against everything that everyone around you is going, That's that feeling. You have to once more cross through all the sheep, and everyone is like, why are you speaking in that way? Why are you dressing in that way? Why are you studying this? Why did you break out of this relationship? Why did you finish that job and follow your own like self-employment or things like that? It's all of those things are which I think is actually way more natural for everyone individually to follow, would come up, and that is hard because it makes you, it ostracizes you, it puts you outside of the mass, and that's a hard thing to do. So I'm just like, yeah, just these are the things that I'm just want to point out, which are standing in the way of living our authenticity. So it's not just our individual pain and our individual family stories or stories, but it's also actually in a like the bigger picture. Yeah.
Mm. I think that was really valid. I think that was beautiful that you brought that up. It reminds me a lot about, like, as you were speaking, I think it was Rockefeller. Rockefeller decided that he didn't want free thinkers. He wanted ants, workers. And so that this is what we've been talking about for months now. When I speak to indoctrination, that you're made to study from the age of 4 until 24, and then you get your first job, and then you're just, head down and just do. You're a human doing, not a human being. This is exactly what they wanted to achieve. They structured absolutely everything about our lives for us instead of giving us the wait a second, because that's not what they have the power to do. They can't give us the permission to be ourselves and make our free will and choice. But they have kind of, in a certain way, made us forget that we have free will and choice, if that makes sense. And yeah, I think that they did that through that indoctrination, that telling us that you're going to study for 20 years and you're going to be one thing for the rest of your life, and you're just going to keep your head down and you're going to make money. Yeah, and you're right. It's capitalism, 100%. I love what you also started saying, actually, about how authenticity actually deepens the more that you deepen your awareness of yourself. Yes, we do have, as you mentioned, all that trauma that is linked to the hiding our authenticity. Also, the indoctrination, especially for women, has been very difficult for us to, break out of our shells, because we have been the gender that has been most capped by the indoctrination. And you're not supposed to be different because different is bad. I think that this has been something that we've been told as a society. Different is bad. You got to adhere to the norm. You got to fit yourself in the box. And the thing is, as you were speaking, a lot of things flew through my mind. Like, I've always been really different. People have always spoken behind my back or bullied or teased me, you get to look at these things and you're like, you know what? In the end, you realize that whether you're doing what they expect you to do or whether you're doing the opposite of what they expect, they're gonna talk anyway. So it may as well be because you are being your wonderful, authentic self and you are living unapologetically. You know, we are cyclical energy. We're cyclical beings. Our energy gets recycled and we do come back. But as the person that you are today, you have one go at it. So make the most of it, you know? And I think that I don't know why this is coming through now, but it's like coming to me like women that are going through the awakening of clair abilities, right? Why don't I see like she says she sees? Why don't I hear like she says she hears? Because we're all different. And it's amazing to be different. I mean, I have another theory about this because even my clair abilities, they've gone changing as I've deepened, you know. It's not about becoming so much less of what is expected of us. It's about becoming more of what we are. So this also translates into what I'm trying to say with the clair abilities. The more that you go into it, the more that you practice it, the more that you embody it, your gifts will change and it'll just become some kind of like clairgnosis, you know? But this is linked to what you were saying about healing the different levels. I can't know myself authentically until I get to the very core of it. And you know, this is also common ground where we'll look at a wound, which I actually prefer to call them observation mechanisms. Do we choose which observation mechanism will be the core one for us to keep coming around and looking back at? But yeah, so the more that you identify this, the longer that you're working on it, the more authentic you're actually going to become. It's not one and done. That's something that I think people need to be very, very clear on.
For sure, for sure. I have again, like, I feel like we already spoke about this topic a few times, but again, the same topic is coming in, and I think it's so profound that it does need to come in again. And it's this thing that we also right now live in a time where people do tap out of this sheep mentality, right? And then we are thinking, yes, I want to be more authentically me. But what happens in all of that, we start just actually follow and copy what others do. And this topic is coming up because, yeah, things that we talked about in private where people just copy what we do. Like, how crazy is that? So actually, it's like you're not grounded enough in yourself to feel brave to bring your innermost feelings, desires, and gifts. Not that I even it needs a stronger word than that. Like your innermost oof, things into the world because you still have insecurities there, or you don't see it yet, or you don't want to see it, and then you just follow what someone else does and copy theirs. But this is the truth, and the more we're moving forward in time, actually, this used to work for a while, and it's still kind of working for most people right now, but it will not. It will not work anymore. You can't copy other people's things. It just doesn't. You can't copy other people's styles. You can be inspired. I feel I get inspired from other people's styles and I take it and do my own thing with it. And maybe I'll copy it for a while and then I do my own thing. But if you completely copy your whole identity on someone, like the time of a guru, the time of like, it's gone. It's like we need to be actually like on a similar level. And this is just such a dear topic that is like so standing in the way of authenticity. And it's standing in the way because most people don't actually realize that it's standing in the way. Most people think like, oh, I'm living my authentic self because I also am doing, okay, my example, my ancient example. I'm also doing a cacao ceremony, so I'm authentic. No, babe, you're not. You actually just do this because you think it's what the next step, what you're doing in your healing and growth and in becoming uniquely you, but maybe you're not. I'm always saying I've for 2 years, since 2 years, I always get that wrong. It's okay. I've been saying that there will come a time where a lot of people that are right now self-employed and thinking they're following their path, when they're actually gonna go back and whatever they've learned and will do it in their own work. So we will have spiritual bankers. We will have the investment brokers that are doing yoga in their spare time, and they're asking their higher self where they should invest in the next thing. Like that's going to happen. It's not going to be the banker that is suddenly holding ayahuasca retreats, but it's actually the banker learns through ayahuasca, learns through meditation, learns through yoga, takes that back, and then creates a business, a bank that is actually founded in like the innate. I'm just waiting for that. I'm so frustrated that's still not happening. I'm
I
like, where are all these babes that are actually here to support me? Who is doing my financial business? Who is doing my marketing? Because there's thousands out there, but at the moment they're all a little bit lost in thinking like, oh, I also need to do this. I also need to do. No, it's not. Maybe you're actually better at sorry. I'm like, yeah, it's just it's such an important topic.
agree. I agree. And you've said very valuable things there. I hope that I kept it all in. The first thing that you're talking about there is, yeah, and this is something that I see within the blueprints that I read. There are different energy centers, and one is about, building. It's about building, whether that is legacy or whether that is physical buildings. Builders are just as divine as healers. We're all divine. And so I feel like in this awakening, a lot of people have wanted to step away from what they thought was not divine, but everything is divine.
Yeah.
Everything. So I agree with what you said there. There will come a time, especially now, authenticity is a big theme this year also, embodiment and authenticity. There are going to be a lot of priestesses, oracles, healers, shamans that are actually going to be exposed.
Yes.
Capitalism within the spiritual world is progressively going to be exposed. Thank goodness, because really it gives me the ick. I struggle a lot with what I see on Instagram, and I'm like, this actually ties back to what you were saying before about authenticity and, people copying each other's gifts. Whenever I see somebody that I've given sessions to and pretend like they are downloading what I'm downloading or use what I gave them in a session to put on their Instagram, that is not your medicine. The thing about this is that I do believe that we are energetically protected. And that which is our medicine cannot be administrated or dosed by a doctor that is not us. It's just not going to work for them. And so then I also see, I have seen a lot of people on their Instagram that are trying to portray something that is not authentic in their life. And this takes us back to what we've been saying continuously about being vulnerable, about because that is much more valuable than just pretending you are the master manifester and you have a great sex life and this and that when you actually don't. And we're talking in our coaching about how you feel like you are letting your energy leak. Maybe that's why your business isn't actually working because you're leaking that energy. So you're not being authentic. You're right. And this topic of authenticity, it can take us to so many different places. But yeah, I think from everything that you were saying there, I think that maybe the summary that I can give is not about copying others. It's about you can adapt. You can adopt and adapt different things that you learn from other people. This is why we have unique medicine. It's to share it, it's to inspire others, like you said. However, you cannot copy me because I have my own frequency, I have my own medicine, I have my own thing, my own look, etc. And that is what works for me. I mean, now that I'm in the spiritual business world, I can see it happen in the spiritual business world. But even as a human woman, I've seen it for years where you will have a girl that will it's happened to me not even 4 years ago. Girl got super obsessed with me and my partner, started to curl her hair. She started to get tattoos when she didn't have a single one. You can take it like, oh, you know what? Thank you, because that is validation that I am special and I am a being of inspiration. I'm a muse. Thank you for that. Then on the other side, it's just like, but try to find your own flavor, please.
It's actually a little bit creepy. Oh my goodness, don't just start impersonating me. No, for sure. No. Yeah. I seen that actually at I'm also sometimes did like a few shifts as a social worker, and I've seen that with a girl there as well. That's true. Suddenly she dyed her hair red, the same shade, and she even asked me what shade I'm using because she wants to have the same hair. And I mean, she said she was a teenager, so at the same time I'm like, okay, but where is that coming from? It's because she doesn't have any like stability and groundedness in herself. She doesn't believe that she has any self-worth. Super, super sad. So how can you live your authentic being if you don't feel like you're worthy of it? So you copy someone that you feel like impersonates it. uh, impersonates, that presents it. You should stop impersonating that person. But yeah, it's an inspiration. I think, yeah, I can always have a bit more compassion if someone is like a teenager and obviously she was in a situation where she needed some support, and that's completely fine. But with you, you're talking about a girl that is grown up. For those people that they would just see like, wow, she's so inspiring. What of her do I also want to take into my life? But then really look, is that my truth? Or not? Or am I just impersonating her? And that's like a fake authenticity. It's a fake confidence boost because it will all crumble. That's the same. Actually, that's exactly the same when you copy someone's work. You cannot uphold that for long because it's way too exhausting. It's like holding a frequency and an energy that is not yours. Impersonating someone doesn't work. Work-wise, look-wise, speaking-wise, it will never work. I think I've been really my whole being from very early age on, I've been very against that. Like it was just it never crossed my mind to do that. I've always I remember very young, my mom was sometimes scared that I would go and follow some cults because she thought I'm different. So the fear is I would go into cults. I'm like, no, I'm actually really prone to seeing all of that. And I'm also really prone to seeing guru behavior, and I don't like it. I've
Mm.
always had that. All the teachers I've learned from, they were very modest, vulnerable beings. Like once she came into the call crying, and she's like, "Oh my goodness, I just broke up with my partner. Give me 10 minutes and I'll come back." And she talked about that with us, and like we learned from it. And I'm like, this is authenticity. It's not like I put on my makeup and I'm like, I have my life in order, my everything, I have the best relationship, the best sex life. And I'm like, I don't believe it when people say that because I don't have it. And I don't think anyone has it. I think we all have our struggles and problems and issues, and that's perfect and that's beautiful and that's part of our life. And at the same time, I think I also don't need to constantly share about that on my
Mm.
Instagram because I think I in the past I got a bit lost with sharing all of my struggles, which was really good. It was like a journal for me, but we can get lost in that. And that's like for me getting lost in the shadow work as well.
Fair enough.
It's a balance.
Fair enough. Definitely. We do need to find that harmonization, that balance between, yeah, the too much and the too little, for sure. But I feel like, whatever you did share was exactly what needed to be shared. Whatever you feel guided to share, that is what needs to be shared. That vulnerability, I think, is authenticity at its maximum expression. Um, and I think it's actually very necessary that you did that in order to come out with, I can speak about authenticity because I show that about myself, for sure. Yeah, I mean, you were talking also about from a very young age. You said that, I mean, for me, it was impossible to try to fit in. I was growing up in Australia. All the girls at school, pretty much all the girls at school were little blondies with blue eyes, gorgeous girls, but I could not imitate that for the life of me. How am I going to make that one work? So, yeah, I always prized myself on just dressing whatever way I wanted to dress. Oh, I can see images right now of the cringiest photos. If I look at them, I'm like, what was my 11-year-old actually thinking when she put that on? But my mom and my dad, they actually, I was very lucky. They both applauded that a lot, and yeah, they let me launch myself into just being the little kid that would come home from school every end of year and say, next year I actually want to study Buddhism. Mom, for the next year, can you actually sign me up for Islam? And my mom was like, oh my God, okay, she's really figuring herself out from a very young age. And my parents have just, again, I will say I am very lucky. They have encouraged that a lot. They have then indoctrinated me in certain other things, but about finding my authenticity and finding my expression, whatever I wanted to do, art classes, science classes, dance classes, singing, I've always been able to expand and explore, or explore and expand. And just going back to what we were saying, I think you're right, and it does have to do with insecurity. But I think it has more to do with an underlying theme of they have this need to suddenly be able to express themselves in a certain way. And so they pick the thing that they think is the most fabulous and they copy that,
Yeah.
instead of actually just, like we
Yeah.
said, finding it themselves. In the end, I think authenticity is kind of threatening sometimes, and we kind of got to walk cautiously because we don't want to overwhelm people. We want to inspire them to become themselves.
For sure. And it's threatening because it's different. It goes against anything everyone outside there lives, kind of. So that's why it's like, and the thing is, if you are the best you can do, if you live authentic, is you actually already inspire others, like subconsciously, to do the same. So that's why some people get threatened
Mm.
because
Mm.
it's like, I'm not ready yet for that. It's like this inner voice. I really like what you said, and I think we also need to bring it to an end here. But this thing of that we had very different upbringing, like
Mm.
you were encouraged or like had this life of being, and I was rather like smothered into conformity. But I'm like, it doesn't matter. Look at us sitting here now, two girls, two completely different backstories, and still it's like we're at the same point right now.
This is the ego degradation. The more that you look at yourself, you are going to magnetize people of your frequency. We are both women that are constantly working on ourselves, constantly degrading the ego, constantly figuring out how can I see with more love? How can I live with more love? How can I be more love? How can I liberate myself more? How can I empower myself more? How can I reclaim more of my femininity, my sexuality, my everything, my limitlessness? So in the end, as long as you continue to do that, you will magnetize people and be surrounded by people who continue to do that. And so you will explore and expand even more. I think
Yeah,
it's
sure. For sure. So let's just invite those people into our audience, like as well, because it's that, right? We're here to inspire through our words, through our appearance, through our expression, because our expression is not just words, its expression is like energies. So we're expiring, and it's this thing of like also tap into who are you in the core, and who do you want to be, and if you need any support and guidance in that, either of us is here for you. Like you don't need to do it by yourself. I didn't do it by myself. I have like more than 10 years of different therapies and coaching and support and teachings and whatever else. So we're not getting there from one day to the other. It's okay to ask for support. It's okay to, yeah, find the person you trust to guide you a little bit on the way.
absolutely, absolutely. I love that you said that. I think that's really important, especially like you keep mentioning the rapidly growing awakened collective. I have trouble with these words. I hate calling people awakened or not awakened. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, the rapid ascension that we're seeing, people are expecting it to be like this and one and done and rapid gratification, and it doesn't work that way. Whether you start with the embodiment or whether you start with transcendentalism, you're going to have to actually come to a point where you actually merge them to actually be embodied. So it's going to be a process, especially with the distended and disembodied facilitation that we have out there at the moment that focuses just on one thing, or you're really not getting anywhere. But we spoke about this the other day when we mentioned Buddha, didn't we? So yeah, let's wrap it up for today.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening, and obviously ask away whatever questions you have, and please step a tiny bit more into your authentic being because you'll make the world happy.
Naho to that. Thank you, you guys.
Bye bye.